Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Lisa Langford. I'm the Global Partnership Lead for Turn.io, and I'm very excited for our, as I mentioned, first Sustainability and Climate Change Bootcamp. I'm sure this will be the first of many as we address this really important crisis at the moment. So to start today, we are very excited to be partnering with WhatsApp through the Bootcamp series. We started the Chat for Impact Bootcamp series and Accelerator series with WhatsApp almost 2 years ago, and we've been growing really strongly in the community. So today, we are going to take you through a whole range of informations, knowledge sharing, and also some time to actually have a look underneath the hood and get interested in what you can do in the WhatsApp Business API. Next slide, please. So looking at the agenda, we're going to start with an overview of what is Chat for Impact. You might have heard us speak about Chat for Impact, or it might be completely new to you. Simon will chat us through what that is and what philosophy we see behind that. You'll see some amazing showcases from the best in class in the sustainability and climate change sector. You get to see really how other organizations are using chat and specifically WhatsApp to have impact in this sector. Then we're going to be taking you through how to design a service. I mean, that's the reason why we're all here today, is to learn how to actually use WhatsApp for impact. We're going to take you through some practical steps, best practices, and then thereafter, we're going to give you the opportunity to onboard onto the WhatsApp Business API. So after that, hopefully you would be able to start using WhatsApp and engage with your end users as of today. And lastly, we always invite you to join our community. Our community is a place where all of us get together, share ideas, share knowledge, and continue to learn together to have better impact using WhatsApp. Next slide, please. A quick note on housekeeping. We will be recording the session, so don't worry, you won't miss anything. And if you want to share it, you can absolutely do it with your colleagues. If you have chat or questions, you can share it in the chat. We will also have specific areas in the session where you can ask questions. We will pause for those, and then feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself, and ask the question in the chat. This is an interactive session. We want you to feel at home. You're amongst friends here, and we want you to learn as much as possible. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our CTO and co-founder, Simon Dohan, to chat a bit more about this philosophy of Chat for Impact and what we believe at Turn and WhatsApp of what you can do to have impact. Over to you, Simon.
Thank you. My name is Simon, as Lisa said. I'm dialing in from the Netherlands. We are all here essentially because we all believe that chat really can change lives. When used right, it can be an incredibly powerful medium for incredible positive change. And at Turn.io, our vision is to make effective human support accessible to people everywhere, to vulnerable people everywhere. And chat is a fundamental piece of that. You can go to the next slide. You can see that 4 billion people already use chat apps on their mobile phones. People already use chat for social. I'm sure we all do. Businesses use chat for commercial means and use cases. And for the last couple of years, we've been asking and encouraging organizations to question, why don't organizations use chat for positive impact? And so we're on a mission to encourage and enable organizations as Turn.io to amplify these organizations' social impact through chat. And this is why we are here, and this is why we are running these Chat for Impact bootcamps in partnership with you all and as a partnership with WhatsApp as well. Next slide, please. So when we're talking about using chat for impact, it's important to have a good understanding of the whole WhatsApp wider ecosystem. So firstly, on the left, there's the consumer app, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, and we all use to stay in touch with our loved ones and our friends. Secondly, there's the small business app, which is used by lots of small business owners to stay connected with their customers. And lastly, there's the business platform, which is the focus of this Chat for Impact Bootcamp. And the focus there is to help you communicate and drive impact at scale. If we can go to the next slide, We can see that practically what this means is that Turn.io helps you and your organization to use the WhatsApp business platform to have an impact through chat. Next slide, please. So we've done a number of boot camps over the past 2 years. A lot of this actually got kickstarted with COVID and the pandemic. And most recently, we've had boot camps dealing specifically focused on health and on crisis response. And so we've been working with teams of experts and great social impact organizations, really leaders and key people in their respective fields, to explore how chat can be used to save lives in each of these verticals. And so during the previous health boot camp, the WHO shared their experiences of scaling their COVID-19 response service to more than 12 million users globally. And Noura Health out of India shared their important work on supporting patients after leaving medical facilities using WhatsApp and the dramatic impact that they were seeing there and the potential they're seeing for growth. For the crisis response bootcamp, which we've also done, CARE International shared their experience of using WhatsApp in Afghanistan as the Taliban took over Kabul at the time, and the UNHCR shared their WhatsApp response to the global refugee crisis. And we as Turn.io were able to share about our work supporting Ukraine's state emergency services in launching a WhatsApp service to give people essential and vital information during the first weeks of the war. Now, if we can go to the next slide. This is the first bootcamp with an explicit focus on sustainability and climate change, and it's an extremely important one. While the previous bootcamps dealt with highly visible crises that we all immediately felt, I mean, all of us were in lockdown, for example, due to COVID. It was very much in your face and present. The climate change crisis is absolutely acute. But the problem is it runs the constant risk of being an invisible one. And what's even more pressing is that the dramatic effects of climate change disproportionately impact those already vulnerable in our societies. So we believe that chat can change lives by helping organizations that are tackling the challenges posed by climate change. And so we're extremely motivated to see you all thrive. And we see incredible potential for you all to do great things using chat for impact. So we just want to thank you for joining us today. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Mohini Patel from the sustainability team at Meta. Thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, Simon. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here and chatting with you all. I'm Mohini, and I am joining from the sustainability team at Meta. I'm a project manager supporting the climate product team. My background is in the nonprofit and social impact sectors, specifically in water access and agriculture. It's been amazing to work alongside folks who are making the Meta team and our family of apps more sustainable for the world. And I'd love, to cover a couple of points. Next slide, please. The first thing is that we use 100% renewable energy for our operations. We actually achieved that in 2020, and we now have over 5.4 gigawatts of new wind and solar projects under contract, which is very exciting. Next slide, please. The second is that we have a net zero commitment by 2030 across scope 1, 2, and 3. And in 2020, we were able to achieve net zero GHG emissions in our direct operations by reducing our emissions by 94% compared to 2017 levels. As well as supporting high quality carbon removal projects. We've actually set a new goal that in 2030 we'll reach net zero emissions across not only our own operations, but also our entire value chain, our suppliers, as well as items like business travel and employee commuting. Next slide, please. And the third and last item is something I'm very passionate about with my background in water. As of last year, we have a goal to be water positive by 2030. This means Meta will return more water to the environment than we consume for our global operations. In an area like, for example, like a data center, if it's in an environment that is water poor, we will actually commit to putting 200% of the water that we use back into the environment. Obviously, this is a very crucial point, and it enables us to continue to connect the world while positively impacting the environment. I'm happy to take questions and chat more about these sustainability measures, and as well as learn from others in the sector who are on this call. Thank you. And I believe I'm passing it to Kanya.
Yes, thank you very much, Mohini.
Thank you.
As Mohini mentioned, my name is Kanya Mdlungu, and I'm joining you from the beautiful mother city, which is Cape Town, South Africa. So my role today is that we are showcasing amazing organizations. These organizations will share who they are, information about their chat services, and also what they are hoping to achieve with their WhatsApp chat line. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce Mighty, who is a digital communications consultant focused on climate action projects and paid marketing. And she will be taking us through the United Nations chat service. Over to you, Mighty.
Hello to all of you. We are super excited to be here today and really thankful to be invited to present our campaign we have realized with Turn and WhatsApp. And so let's get right into it. As already mentioned, the climate crisis is an acute crisis that affects every single one of us and even affects the most vulnerable communities around the world even more. And so it's something that we can no longer ignore. And to preserve a livable climate, greenhouse gas emissions must be reduced by half by 2030 and to net zero by 2050. While governments and the corporate sector for sure bear a huge responsibility in making this happen, we also believe, or we also want to highlight, that individual action can make a difference and help protect our planet. And this is how the Act Now campaign of the United Nations was born, that really focuses on encouraging every single one of you, of us, to take an action on tackling the climate crisis and learn more about sustainable habits. The Act Now campaign has been present on our website, un.org, for a while now, and is also available as an app. And their users it allows users to choose and track a set of sustainable habits and see their impact they're making in terms of water or electricity they saved. So far, we have gathered more than 6 million actions around the world. Users can log in their action and share with us. And so we really want to create a global movement to help tackle the climate crisis. In order to reach even more users, we decided to partner up with Turn and WhatsApp for a new campaign. Next slide, please. And that's the WhatsApp messaging service, also based on Act Now. And so we chose to go this route because, as already mentioned before in the introduction, is that chat is a powerful tool to really make an impact and to drive change. And WhatsApp is a messenger service that has more than 2 billion people in over 180 countries. And since that app is available for every phone and it is a free service and it is widely used, there are not a lot of barriers for users to access the service we can offer. And so we basically took the Act Now campaign and put it into WhatsApp, and over there we have also 10 actions users can choose from, and they can interact and enter a conversation with our virtual assistant. And so the virtual assistant takes them through different sections, be it raise your voice, like what can you do to call on governments and other leaders to make a change? How can you save energy in your daily habits? And while some of these actions seem to be really simple, such as taking a shower for only 5 minutes instead of 15, it is a great reminder for everybody to really, remember that in their daily life. And then collectively, this will make a huge impact. as we follow along, we want to scale the service globally in means of adding new languages to it. Right now, we will be launching it in English at first, but in the future, we're really hoping to launch it in the additional languages of the UN, which is besides English, will be Spanish, French, Arabic, Russian, and Chinese. And we also hope to really add more content to the bot. So will be a growing platform and will be useful to, if the users decide to opt in and is happy to receive new updates from us, we want to feed them with new tips and tricks or anything related on how to make an impact and help tackle the climate crisis. And Turn helped us really in setting up the automation. It helped us with the technical framework. And so we're really thankful for that. So if you have any questions, we're happy to respond to any.
Thank you very much.
I have sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
I have a question. Can you maybe share a little bit about your plans to promote the service? I think often we think let's build a service, but I think the UN's got some really exciting plans on how you're actually going to promote the service. It would be great if you can share that.
Yes, of course. Sorry, I've completely forgot about that. So yes, I mean, first of all, Turn has provided us with a QR code and obviously a number and a WhatsApp me link. So people can just really click on the number or click on the link and will be led to the service. And so our plan is to really promote it on social media on all our UN channels. And we are partnering with Meta to be able to have some sponsored content out there to really increase our reach and really reach people and make them aware that we have this service. And we have developed a few assets to really showcase the interactiveness of this bot and how it works.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Are there any other questions for Mighty? I don't see any in the chat, so please feel free to add them there and we can answer them at the end of our showcases. So Mighty, again, it's great to see such a wonderful organization like yours joining the cause to preserving our planet through this Act Now campaign. And also the fact that you're targeting a global audience in different languages as well. So we look forward to the work that you'll be doing. Now, moving on to our next use case. We have an amazing organization as well that's out of the EMEA region called InfoNile, whose use case will be presented by Alice Okonji, who is the communications lead in charge of digitizing and connecting more with users. So here is Alice joining us from Uganda with more on their organization and their WhatsApp chat service.
Thank you so much, Kanya. And thank you everyone thank you, Tan, for inviting us to share about our chatbot service. We are very excited to be using it. So like introduced by Kanya, my name is Alice. I lead a communications team at InfoNile. We are based in Uganda, but our operations are in the Nile Basin. InfoNile really is just a cross-border group of geojournalists, and we tell stories about water, environment, biodiversity, and climate change, and really cross-cutting issues in the Nile Basin. And we do this using data-based multimedia storytelling. Next slide, please. So at InfoNile, we realized that, as I said earlier, we work a lot with journalists, and we realized that many times when journalists or policymakers or just some of our partners are looking for information about water and the environment in the Nile Basin, they often had to check a very in-depth scientific reports. And these scientific reports, as you're aware, are always in very technical scientific languages. And so this is why at InfoNile, we work with data wranglers and our journalists, and we work to produce very accurate and verifiable data on water and the environment. And we portray this in different styles. We sometimes do videos, We use stories, data visualizations, just a mix of different multimedia tools. And so we realized that this information really is hard to get for us, for the journalists, for activists, anyone who's really looking for the information. And so this is why we were very happy to partner with TAN and to be able to make this knowledge and resources available on the go. Next slide, please. And so the solution we came up with was sort of a resource center. We are using our WhatsApp chatbot as a resource center to provide knowledge. And we use different things, like I mentioned, data visualizations, media reports, their stories, their videos, but then there's also, we make mobile magazines, and these are magazines that they include stories that have been put together with data. So we have a lot of maps, we have a lot of graphs, and we put this together in mobile magazines, and these mobile magazines currently are available in different Nile-Basin languages. So we have English, French, Swahili, Arabic, and Amharic. Well, the chatbot currently is only available in English, but we are slowly updating it to have material and content in different languages. And this service, our chat service, also provides opportunities for journalists and scientists. And these opportunities are like trainings or grants. We support journalists with grants to go and produce stories. And through our chat service, they can be able to access this information. The pictures you see on your screen, the one Biodiversity in Lakes, that's a mobile magazine. And it has stories from, I think, 6 different countries, and they were all about lakes and how the lakes in the Nile Basin are really under threat from biodiversity challenges. And the other one on the other side is, I think, a prompt from one of our users who was looking for stories on pangolins. And then we had a story from pangolins in Uganda. Next slide, please. So we've really learned a lot of lessons since we started using the chat. These 3 are just our top 3 lessons, and I'm sure we're learning more. But we've realized that our users really prefer simple prompts. So we are journalists, and often we tend to be wordy. But and then we had prompts that would ask someone, if you're looking for data on plastic pollution in Lake Victoria, then type the word plastic pollution in Lake Victoria to receive content. But we realized that the users prefer simpler prompts. So the use of emojis, for instance, and most popular ones are the use of buttons. We use buttons to ease accessibility. And then we also realized that our users are really looking for information that's relevant to them. So you find many people in Egypt will ask about Egypt. Many people in South Sudan will ask about South Sudan. And also, this is one of the core reasons why we do what we do. We want to equip journalists with the right skills to be able to produce reliable and compelling reports. And we see them coming to us often to ask for information. And we are happy that this is a learning that we are turning into a solution. Next slide, please. Well, yeah, this is our chatbot. If you want to access it, there's a QR that we have been promoting. We've gone to certain events where we just have this QR code on a big banner, and everybody passes by our tent and scans and uses it. So feel free to access our chatbot or visit our website, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. Thank you so much, Kanya, and thank you for partnering with us to enable this service.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Alice, and it's been great to work with you as well. Are there any questions around the room? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. I see a question here on the chat from Corey. How would you compare the use metrics of the chat with some of your more traditional channels like web or social? And also, are they more engaged in one or another? Or is it still too early to tell? I think that's a question for you, Alice.
Well, thanks for the question, Corey. We realize on WhatsApp people are really keen to engage the bot, so the engagement we feel is higher than, for example, on Twitter, where we would have someone just check out our grant and just like it or retweet it. But we find when we use the chatbot, they would ask, for example, prompt about our newest grant opportunities, and when they receive it, they would follow it up with a question, and when we answer it, they would follow it up with another question, which we think is more engaging. So it might be too early to tell because we've only been using this service since late January, but we really think this our chatbot makes it personal rather than when we use our social channels, which of course we are still using, but we think this is more personal and we like it that way. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the team for Alice? Just one more, then we move on. Happy to move on. And again, please feel free to pop your questions in the chat as they arise. And for the speakers as well, please feel free to switch your video on when presenting as well. Thank you very much, Alice, for that. Now, before I'd like to introduce our next speaker. And we have Diane Anderson, who is the Associate Director of EB Impact, a nonprofit that is based out in Singapore, dedicated to delivering training and programs that advances the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Diane is passionate about supporting social innovations in the sustainability space in the Southeast Asian region. So over to you, Diane.
Thanks so much, and thanks for inviting us to speak at this boot camp. I guess just a little bit about EB Impact. As Kanyan said, we're a nonprofit based in Singapore. However, we are looking at the Asia Pacific region, and we're really focused on three matters, which is education, youth, and nature-based solutions. So really anything to do with sustainability issues and really progressing sustainability issues in the region as well. And the second organization that I also wanted to introduce is not really an organization, it's more of an alliance, and this is called CASA, and it's the Climate Action SG Alliance, and this is an alliance of different organizations and different leaders within organizations in Singapore, and we're supported by the Ministry of Sustainability and the Environment as well. And I guess the reason I brought this up is because it's very much connected to the initiative that we have. Our initiative is not just done by EB Impact, it's also done by the other organizations within the alliance too. Next page, please. So I guess our use case for Turn.oi is really this thing around green jobs. I think in Singapore, and I think it's all over the world, there's been a trend in kind of green jobs and green skills. And I think it's both in the employer's perspective, but also the employee's perspective as well, whereas the employers want to hire more people with green skills and also within the green job space, but employees also want to go into green jobs and green skills. So what we want to use the channel for is really to kind of educate the masses in Singapore around green skills and also around green jobs. One of our CASA partners, LinkedIn, has actually recently done a study in Singapore and also in the region to really showcase kind of why are people interested in green jobs, why are people interested in green skills, and they've also looked at how can people get into green jobs and green skills, and what are the green jobs and green skills out there. So what we want to use the WhatsApp channel for is really to really kind of build and hone a community around green skills and green jobs as well. One, to educate people on what are the green jobs out there. Two, what are the skills that you need for the green jobs out there. And the third one is how can you actually bring green skills into your jobs, even though they may not be green jobs themselves. So how do you add on to sustainability within your jobs as well? So it's kind of where we want to start with the WhatsApp channel. However, we do see the WhatsApp channel kind of growing further within our CASA initiatives. I think within the CASA initiatives, we have other initiatives as well, such as the Nature in the City. So really kind of uplifting youth to understand what natural grounds they have within the city too. Next page, please. So I think I already kind of mentioned a little bit about what the solution is as well, is really to create kind of greater awareness for green jobs and highlight the key sectors involved in sustainability related work. Use turn.io with the implementation of the first phase of the program, which really involves the awareness building that we want to reach through the WhatsApp channel as well. I don't have anything else to add on. I don't really have any key learnings yet because we have yet to start. We're going to start this. So we'll share a little bit more about that once we get it started. But that's all from me for now.
Thank you very much, Diane. I see that we don't have any questions, but on a personal note, I love how you are combining sustainability and also financial inclusion as well to create, in your approach to create awareness. And I think that's something quite amazing.
Thanks.
Still no questions, so we'll move on to
yes? Just a quick question from me. So Diane, I know we've been talking a lot about the service and what you've launched with and stuff, but just in terms of quick question on what is the outcome that you hope to get? I know education and awareness about green jobs is one, but in terms of building the community, and spreading the word about your service being out there, have you thought through how you'll be going about that?
Yeah, I think we really want to kind of hone the community through the WhatsApp channel. We're planning to do that by doing a launch event with our other CASA members. However, I think the aim is that we use the WhatsApp solution to kind of bring the members onto our LinkedIn platform, bring the members on to our website as well, to really kind of bring that community around green jobs and green skills as well. And we've been speaking about to our other organizations, part of CASA as well, to how can we actually create workshops for those who are part of our community as well, and make sure that everybody has the opportunity to be trained up in green skills as well.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Indrani. And I see one last question coming in from Andrew. Do you think
I don't really have the answer for you there, Andrew, yet. But we'd love to throw the answer back to the turn.oi team as well to see if you guys have an answer to that.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in there. So Andrew, just to clarify, as Simon showed earlier, the ecosystem on the WhatsApp Business API, the community functionality is not available. So it's slightly different from how you would interact with friends from a personal note, but so it's more of a one-to-one conversation. There is the broader community feature that's being released later this year on WhatsApp, and then we're hoping that there will be plans to roll that out onto the API. And just to kind of recap, the API really allows you to engage with thousands of users all at the same time at scale. So instead of having the app on your phone and having to manage that, I'm sure some of you might have tried that with some of your communities. The API allows you to scale and communicate with millions of people all at the same time. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Lisa, for answering that question. Last but not least, we'll move on to our last use case. We have Lerato Tsotetsi, who works for Greenpeace Africa as the supporter engagement manager in their digital team. Her work involves engaging with supporters on their digital channels like email and WhatsApp. She will chat to us about why they started using WhatsApp, which audiences they're targeting, and how they are using and integrating it to their existing channels. Over to you, Lerato.
Hi everyone. I'm really happy to be part of this. I think when Kanya reached out to me maybe 2 weeks ago or something, I was so stressed. I thought to myself, no ways, I can't be part of this. I was so swamped, but I'm glad that I'm here meeting so many of you guys here. And I'm seeing so many similarities to what we're also doing, and the same reasons that we're using WhatsApp and Turn. I mean, speaking about Greenpeace Africa, Greenpeace as a whole is an independent environmental campaigning organization. We have 55 countries globally, but in Africa, we have 5 countries. We operate in South Africa, in Kenya, the DRC, Cameroon, and in Senegal. And to speak to the campaigns that we run, climate and energy, food and agriculture, oceans, the Congo Basin forest, as you know, there's a lot of deforestation that's happening there, and also oceans in West Africa. I think I'll just start off with just some of the problems that we were trying to tackle. As we all know here, Africa has the lowest number of internet connections, specifically to the countries where we work. In South Africa, there's only 62% of internet access, Senegal 46%, Kenya 42%, Cameroon 36%, and DRC, which is the lowest, which is 17%. And even in those areas where the internet is really good, I mean, where there is internet access, the quality is not really that great. And also, we wanted to reach people in remote areas who cannot, for example, afford data. So some of the solutions that we thought WhatsApp can bring to our work was obviously, again, just to mention the followability part of it, and to get out the way the frequently asked questions. You know, people have just those regular day-to-day questions. They're wondering, how do I volunteer? How do I do this? And it's just like, on Turn, the automations have helped us get those out of the way so that we can have meaningful conversations and connections with our audiences. We also wanted to offer our audiences an easy way to get in touch with us, to learn more about what we do and how they can get involved. We wanted our supporters to also be able to share their updates and activities that they're doing on the ground, to report on environmental crimes that they witness and cannot easily share that online. Also, we thought that WhatsApp is a great way for us to engage supporters. We realized that it is also a very personal space. So, I mean, we don't want to spam people, but we want to empower and inspire them. And we normally speak on WhatsApp in a very casual way, like the way you'd speak to your friend, because we're trying to move away from the very formal chat. Since I do a lot of email, if you subscribe to Greenpeace emails, you'll see that it's more of storytelling, but in a way that connects to the person, using terms that make the person feel some type of emotion, whether it's anger or joy or whatever that it might be. But what I do my best is in separating the way that I speak to people on email, for instance, versus how I speak to people on WhatsApp. So I want people to feel like, hey, I'm connecting with a friend. So the same way that I would introduce myself in email campaigns, I do the same with our WhatsApp channel. In terms of use case, we use it as a personal space, like I mentioned again, to speak more casually, but I mean, all of the great ways that we can send and receive information, whether through videos and files, etc. It gets more engagement, and we found obviously that media engages people more than words and documents and etc. etc. We use it obviously to share our campaign updates and projects that we're working on, to share what our activists are doing on the ground, our volunteer work, our petitions, how far they've come, if we need extra support from people, and we share information according to the specific region. So because we're in Kenya, we mostly share news to our Kenya or East Africa audience that has to do with East Africa. We share Southern African news to our Southern African audience. And to also just add, we actually have 3 WhatsApp channels or 3 WhatsApp numbers. Initially, we only had South Africa, but we introduced 2 more. I think it was in 2020. We introduced our Kenya line and our Cameroon line. So they each serve different parts of Africa. South Africa for Southern Africa, West and Central Africa is covered by our Cameroon number, and obviously the Kenya number is looking at East Africa. Also, with WhatsApp, it was a very easy way for us to receive content and information from supporters. For example, when people are on protests and doing activities on the ground, whether it is cleaning up on the beach, things like that, that people want to share and say, hey, I'm part of the solution. We also use WhatsApp for groups. So we have groups and we call them Greenpeace Africa Digital Warriors. And that's really what they are. They are digital warriors of the environment. And this is a space for people to collaborate, to debate, to discuss, to ask questions, to share information, research, whatever that it might be. But we found that people want to connect with others who are like-minded, who are interested in the things that they're interested in, and really want to be part of the solutions, but not really know what to do in their community. So others lead by example as well. So you think, oh, okay, I saw that so-and-so is doing this in Cape Town. I think I might as well do it in Nairobi. So this is also a space that we use to launch new projects, to do some research, listening in and seeing what people are interested in, what they're talking about, what really interests them, and sharing ideas. People share their thoughts, whatever it is that they're working on. That is the space. And I like to always remind people in our groups that this is your space. We have volunteers that help us run those spaces to really facilitate the conversation, but we try our best not to force Greenpeace work. Every now and then, if something is urgent, we pop in there and say, hey, we have this petition, we need extra signatures, whatever that it might be. But I like to just remind people that this is your space. Talk about what you want to talk about. Ask questions that you want to ask. There's experts in the groups. There's people who are in different lines of work. They're teachers, professors, all kinds of backgrounds. So that's a great space to share and learn. Before we jumped onto Turn as well, we also used to share our messages on our statuses or stories. I don't know how you guys refer to that, but this was also another way for us to engage supporters, especially when we saw that people were not really engaged. So we'd comment on people's stories or statuses just to grow that or increase that engagement. I think I can't remember the person's name, excuse me, but one of the things we also do find challenging, like everybody else here, I guess, especially in the civil society space and then the environmental sector, it's really hard to talk about climate change. It's hard to talk about climate issues and how it affects people's lives and how to connect climate change to domestic violence or to the LGBT community, to have people actually care and take action. It's really, really hard to convince people, because I think specifically in Africa, people's concerns are with financial security, food, family, school, education, all that kind of stuff. So this is a great platform for people, an easy access for people to think, okay, I can learn something from here, or how can I get involved, etc., etc. We also do, at the moment, we only have 2 languages, English for our Southern and East African audiences. We'd like to introduce Swahili. I can't tell you if we can because of capacity, but we'd love to do that. Just introduce other languages, Zulu, Sotho, whatever that it might be that works for Kenya and our East and Southern Africa. But in Western Central Africa, we know that French is the leading language, but we'll see how things go in the future. Also, another thing that I just also wanted to highlight, I didn't hear people say this, and I thought that I might hear people talk about fundraising. We don't use fundraising, obviously, on WhatsApp because this is a personal space. It would be so weird to ask money from someone on WhatsApp. But with the recent project that we're doing, I don't know if some of you know, Shell was wanted to start seismic blasting in our coast in South Africa. So it's not just, it wasn't even a Greenpeace project. A lot of community members were up in arms and were against it, and they did everything possible to stop the project. We have an ongoing case against Shell, and the aim is to stop their project altogether and really just chase them away from our coast. And funny enough, because our legal fees are really, really high, we're looking at legal fees that are up to 3 million. And we're trying to fundraise for that. So while we're sharing content on our WhatsApp to say, hey, this is what's happening, and communities have led this, and we've joined with partners on the ground, we have legal fees that are up to this much. If you can, however much that you want to donate, from 5 Rand to 20 Rand, please do help us fundraise for these legal fees. And for some reason, funny enough, I think in the past 2 weeks we've been running this, we did have get 2 donations from our WhatsApp users. And that's not to say that this has encouraged us to ask for more donations. Yeah, WhatsApp is, personally, I wouldn't expect someone to come to me and ask for money there. But in future, yeah, languages is a big thing for us. Learning audience behavior, since WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook is basically under the same umbrella. It's the same thing. We want to learn how our audiences connect across the channels, and what or how they use each channel, what they do on each channel. So yeah, that's me. Kanye, you could just, I guess, play the video of our demo. It's not, just so you know, we just started, we just joined Turn last week, Friday. We have 3 numbers. So this is our Kenya number. Excuse the name. This is not the official name, obviously, on our account. But on my cell phone, I've saved it as the Kenya WhatsApp number. So we've ported our Kenya number, and we are yet to port our Cameroon and South African number. So this is just basically the opt-in journey, what you just saw now. How people come in when you say hi, we ask for your information, where you're from, just so we know where you're from. And yeah, you know, we can cater to you and the information that you're looking for. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lerato, for that presentation and sharing more information about Greenpeace. And I've been personally involved in the whole lead up to onboarding. And I think maybe just 1 minute, what are some of your efforts to promote this line as well, seeing that you are fairly new? So how do you plan on growing your service and the numbers onto your platform?
Yeah, I just remembered as you speak again that you told me that you just had sleepless nights last week because of me, because I couldn't sleep myself either. Yeah, I mean, initially when we launched our numbers, we were promoting them on social media. So now we really want to broaden the scope. We were also promoting an email, of course, because I run with our email campaigns, but we want to broaden the scope. And have a pop-up maybe on our WhatsApp, on our website. We want to push some ads as well. We have a LinkedIn account where we can also just promote and ask people to join our WhatsApp and broaden or grow our list.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are any other questions from the team.
Question. Yeah, Bobby Jill said, what pros and cons do you see using multiple WhatsApp lines segmented by location? Yeah, I mean, the pros, I guess, is specific region. People coming from different regions land on our channel from different numbers, asking for specific things that have to do with where they are from. We did find that when we just sharing all of our campaign updates about oceans or forest or climate to all the audiences, people would not respond to certain things. Like, I don't want to know about what's happening in South Africa. I am in the rural parts of the DRC. I'm not concerned. So I think having different lines. Initially, there was the plan to say, okay, let's split these audiences with the numbers, especially also because when we started, we'd only launched with the South African number, and we were so overwhelmed, or the person managing the South African number after I was managing it, it was so overwhelming. It was a lot. So we thought, let's just split the audience and split the numbers and have different people manage different numbers. The cons, let me think a bit about this. Three lines. Oh yeah, well, I don't know if I can say this, but Turn is charging us for all three numbers, individually, which makes sense, obviously. But also, no, I can't think of anything now, but I can put it in the chat to think of any other cons. But yeah, I think so far it's been working for us. I think it also helps funnel in terms of language. I remember working with Manish from last week. We were talking about whether or not we want language preference on our account when people land and they're like, no, I don't want to receive information in English. I want to receive English and French. But we decided, because we have three lines, if you're coming in from South Africa or the Kenya line, you receive information in English. If you're coming from the Cameroon line, wherever you are in the West or Central Africa or any other part of the world, you will receive information in French. Can you also share more about the organic updates you get from the field activities, projects, etc.? I imagine it's highly specialized, so I'm wondering if the chatbot feels too generic. Okay, so since, like I was saying, that we launched or we ported our Kenyan number last week, Friday, I think some of our audiences are struggling to adapt with the automated part of WhatsApp, because from the business accounts we've been using on our laptops and tablets, etc., we were talking to people like they're talking to me and you. We were just chatting and replying. I mean, we wouldn't reply immediately, because I'm pretty sure even personally yourselves, you send a message to your mom and she only replies the next day or maybe hours later. So people would understand that, like, okay, I know they're not going to reply immediately. There's an influx of messages that we receive. So it was more personal. I think people felt like I'm talking to someone. now that we launched in the Kenya line, I think 2 or 3 people were like, am I talking to a person? And they were irritated by that. But I think some of the people have learned that on our main menu, we do have a section where it's like, you know what, I have another query. I want to talk to a person. I have something that I really want to say. And I think people will come to get, I guess, to learn and to get comfortable. Like, okay, this is how we're trying to manage the numbers, and we're trying to manage all the influx of information and questions and content that we're receiving from people. Some of the updates that we receive, like people are doing cleanups, or someone is in the forest and they're like, yeah, I saw a truck logging, or someone may say, I saw that at Pick and Pay they still have plastic bags, or Woolworths. They say Woolworths, it's a local grocery store, by the way. Woolworths is they said that they're cutting out plastic, and I can see that they still have plastic in my region. I'm going to confront them. I think I saw a message from one person that said a Spar in my area is still using plastic bags. And so they will come and say, I'm going to do something about this. And they will send maybe a video of the confrontation, which is really weird, but really brave, and we receive all kinds of content. Voice notes were also very useful. Like, we learned that also, besides the media, like photos and videos. I'm sorry, Kanya, I'm taking so much time. But also sending voice notes to people, for them to hear your voice. You're talking to somebody. It feels like you're connecting it. It's not like email, it's not like social media. It's like, I'm talking to you. So we hope as time goes on and we launch our our Cameroon and South African number, people will come around in getting used to the automations. Thank you. Sorry, Kanya.
Thank you very much, Lerato, and no problem at all. That brings us to the end of our use cases. And it's great to see these organizations and how they're looking to use chat for impact, not only to change lives, but also the planet as well. So thank you all for presenting, and we look forward to being part of this amazing journey. With that said, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Lisa to take us through the next process.
Thank you so much, Kanya. Lorata, you set the stage for me. And I just love it that you were able to launch A so quickly, and you're doing amazing work. And we're super excited to see and walk this journey with you. I think a lot of you might at this stage feel, wow, this is amazing. There's some inspiration here, but how do you actually get started? The next few minutes, I'm going to be chatting through designing your service. And by no means is this the be all and end all, but it hopes to inspire you, give you some practical tips of actually how do you even start and getting a service up. So if we can go to the next slide, please. I think a good way to start with looking at using WhatsApp is to say to yourself and your team, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Are you trying to solve providing information to someone? Are you trying to solve a help desk? Do you want to maybe be available for one-to-one conversation? Or do you want to provide a utility service to your end users? Now, all of those are very different in how you do your approach. To give you an example, and I'm also going to take you through some practical examples, that you can, on one hand, go for fully automated chat service where there is no human intervention and it's all set up in automation. Or on the other side of the continuum, you can have a help desk scenario where you are actually manning as a team responding to users' inbound queries. Or you can even have a hybrid model. And I think that's what Turn and the WhatsApp Business API allows you to do, is to kind of think, what is it exactly that I need to solve and how is WhatsApp going to help me solve that problem? So if we can go to the next slide. So this is a very good example of Alert. We would call it an infobot. It started off as an infobot, but it's actually grown to such a substantial service and really bringing so many different pieces into it. It's the World Health Organization chatbot, launched during COVID. It's had up to stage 12 million users accessing this service. So where it initially started was very much focused on COVID. What is COVID? How do I get vaccinated? Those basic information, almost the FAQs that you would have on your website or on your social media. And that's how they started. Over time, understanding what users are looking for, looking at the questions and the queries coming in from users, they were able to fine-tune the service that now even, and as for today, you're able to access it and sign up for smoking cessation programs. You can also sign up for programs to do with mental health. And all of those are what we refer to as utility service. So you almost think of it as it starts with a basic informational service, menu as we talk about it, and then it goes into a deeper journey with the user. The good news is you don't have to start big. You can just start small and really understand how users are interacting with your service, because it's going to be different to SMS and it's going to be different to your social media. We always say it's a hybrid between SMS and social media, the way that users engage with you as an organization on WhatsApp. The next slide will show you an example of a support service. Now, this is one of our favorite, I can't choose favorites, but it's one of our favorite services, and they provide a support system. So same as supporting LGBTQ youth across the world with mental health, supporting one another. And there they have a team of actual support counselors behind the chat service that is able to answer questions if they are triaged throughout the automation funnel. So what they would look like is the basic questions: who are you, where are you from, do you want to know more about us? Those kind of generic or FAQs, again, as I referred to, is automated. But when they are then actually wanting to speak to a counselor, the chatbot is able to hand them off to a human counselor, all by using the same platform. So for the user, there is the experience of I get the information I'm looking for, but also I can speak to a real person if I need to. A really good example of using a help desk or a help support system. Then the next service, as an example, is an educational service. Again, different use case, but this is for Sesame Workshop. And their objective was, how do we assist parents during COVID who are now stuck with their kids at home, and making sure that they continue their education? Now, they have been doing some amazing work with their service. And what I really like particularly about this service is that the use of multimedia. It's particularly important, especially in areas where there's a low literacy rate, where voice notes or videos can convey a much more powerful story or message than words can do. And Sesame in particular have taken this to heart. So they are, again, continuing to grow their service from being just an informational service now to educational. How can you track the journey of education? How can you measure how many people have actually been educated and read a piece of content throughout the service? I believe there was a question earlier about engagement, and from our experience working across different sectors, and in particular in One Health's use case, we saw that there was a 10 times higher engagement rate when using WhatsApp compared to SMS. So we definitely know from personal experience, WhatsApp is a far more engaging platform. But I think the important thing to realize is, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And once you have that in place, you can start thinking about what that user journey is going to look like for you. Is it going to be educational? Is it going to be informative? Or are you going to have a utility service where somebody comes back and checks maybe their carbon footprint? Or as in the UN's case, they are actually taking action and sharing that with their friends and family. We'll go to the next slide. So, as I mentioned, think about how users will engage with your service. Put yourself in their shoes, or maybe do a bit of research beforehand, or just get started and test. That's the beauty of WhatsApp. You can literally get started, test and iterate as you go. One of my favorite use cases was around iteration was the Department of Health in South Africa. So during COVID, the service, we really launched that super quickly in a few days. And the department provided information again, what is COVID, how can I get access to vaccines, etc. The things that we thought all at that stage was important. The one element they didn't have was a content piece about travel. No one thought about travel restrictions in those early days, but because they were able to monitor the service using Turn, they could see that a lot of people are starting to ask questions about travel. So the most easiest way to iterate it was to create a piece of content around travel, add it into your main menu as part of the automation, and job done. They were able to fast track a lot more queries through adding that extra piece of content and instead of having to manually respond. So that's kind of the way we recommend you think about it. Think about what content you have available. Typically, it would be what you have already on your website or what you're already promoting on your social channels. Think about how you are going to engage with your users and how they're going to engage with you. Is it going to be a mom that is busy and during the day, but only needs to get a message late at night? Are you as to the green piece, are you going to request information from users so that you can extrapolate a broader database of use cases? Another one of my favorite examples was during the locust outbreak in East Africa. One of our partners at Mercy Corps actually used their WhatsApp service to get smallholder farmers to report where they saw locusts during the era. I mean, there's no better than on-the-ground reporting. They were then able to use that data to build out a broader map so that they could be proactively target those regions. So again, how are your users going to be using your service? Iterate as you go. And then lastly, think about how you're going to keep them engaged. We always think, let's launch, and we focus about the launch. But I think the longer journey is, how do we keep engagement? What is a user going to look for 3 months down the line? Reminding you about that Department of Health use case. 3 months down the line, they were looking for travel information. And so the service was able to adapt to that. And they were able to provide that information very easily, directly in their hands to them via WhatsApp. So I hope those are some useful tips. We will be doing a session later on onboarding and also on designing your service. If you've got more questions, we will have time for that. But now I'm handing over to Indrani to talk a little bit more about the content and how you can best use best practices for design.
Thanks, Lisa. Cool. So over the next few minutes, we will be talking about what you need to think about when designing the content for your service. So some high-level recommendations are to, as Lisa mentioned, start simple. You do not have to have the most detailed version of your service's content ready for launch. You can start simple and edit as you go. Think of categories of content. So plan on creating buckets of content that you want to add to the chat service. And an FAQ bank would really, really be helpful. So think of all questions and queries that you would commonly get asked by your end beneficiaries and add that to an FAQ menu option. And also think about mistakes a user can make when accessing your service. This will help you anticipate in advance and create ways to guide them back to the appropriate menu options for better user experience. Let us now look at some of the most important content categories that you'll be creating for your service. Next slide, please. So first up is one of the most important messages you'll design for your chat for impact service. The first message that your user sees, which is your welcome message. Whether you're running a help desk or a completely automated chatbot, first impressions always count. And it is here where you gain the trust or lose the trust of a user. So let's do a quick analysis of these two very different welcome messages, right? Your welcome message sets the tone for the rest of your service. And the example on the left has a very serious tone with a straight to the point approach to the content. It's an official government service, and it is clear that the authoritative voice that is used is so that the information is trusted. And the example on the right is a much more informal approach, and it's designed to make your user feel like they're talking to someone who understands them. And each example is got a different approach to establishing trust. So you need to think about what tone of voice is right for your service and your audience. Make sure that the user is aware upfront of your data policies and terms and conditions. You will need to collect user consent in order to send notifications later. So get it as soon as possible when they maybe reach out to your service in the beginning itself. Consider asking what language that your user would prefer. Basically, this would be to make sure that you're delivering content possibly in audio or written format to ensure that no one is confused regardless of their literacy levels as well. Always make it clear whether your service is automated or if your user is engaging with a bot. And your users will have different expectations for each type of service. And it is important to set these expectations up front. Also make sure that the user always knows that they can get in touch with a human should they need to do so. Lastly, the user should be absolutely clear about what the service provides and how to get access to help and how to get access to help as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. The next one is the menu page. How you structure your navigation matters. So look at these examples here, right? One is a list with a short phrase of menu text and emojis. And the second one is a built-in menu, which is WhatsApp's list type, which opens up a drawer of options when the user clicks on the button. Which do you think is the most popular one that is used, one or two? You can type up your responses in the chat window. Okay, I see 2, 1, 2, great. Well, there are pros and cons to each, and a list message makes it easier to select an option when the drawer is open, but the user won't be able to see what is in the menu until they open it, right? But in a numbered list, it is clear upfront what the options are, but it might take longer or be more error prone to type a reply. But one thing is important for both types of menus is to try to keep your menu short, maybe shorter than 6 options, but up to 10 is acceptable, as you can see, and that is why the list messages limit you to 10 options. Next slide, please. Great. Let us now look at 2 types of navigation at the end of the message. Make sure that your user never feels lost. It's typical on chat services to have navigation at the bottom of a message that directs the users back to the menu or to other related content. Buttons are best, but you can use numbers or keywords or emojis for this as well. Next slide, please. A common question that we get asked is, how long can our messages be and what is the best way to structure them? So you can send messages with a total of 4,096 characters on WhatsApp, but keep your chat messages under 450 characters, and anything longer than that will require the user to click on the read more option at the bottom of the message, basically truncation. And most teams make the mistake of making their content too long. So it is important to simplify and shorten your content as much as you can, and you will be rewarded in engagement. But if you are in a rush to publish content due to any emergency, post the longer format of content, but come back to it and edit and shorten it to make it easier to consume later on. Next slide, please. At Turn, we believe that every social impact organization should have a chat help desk where your users can ask questions and get personalized, impactful answers. So you will need to design your bot to human and vice versa handover. The best practice is to always make it very clear to the user when you're handing over to a human and when you're handing the user back to a bot. You can also ask a few questions up front and gather all the information that your operator may need before they can answer the question. And doing this helps your human agents use their time more efficiently as well. Well, I hope these examples and tips have given you enough information to start thinking about how to share the wealth of information that you have to your end beneficiaries in the most engaging format. Next, I'll hand over to Carola, who will chat to us about planning for launch.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carola Pareja. I'm also part of the partnerships team at Turn. So now let's answer a question that we get a lot from our clients. How can users find the service that we launch once it's live and it's out there? So for this, you will need to work on a launch plan. You will have to identify who and where your users are and what would be the most suitable channels to reach out to them so that you can advertise your chat service. You can optimize existing media channels by cross-marketing, or you can also use chat tools such as the QR code or the click to WhatsApp links to increase traffic. And this will come as part of the WhatsApp service that you set up with us. And then finally, and most importantly, make sure that you draft a chat service launch plan and allocate a sufficient budget so that you can dedicate promotional activities to this. So now let's quickly look through some examples of what our clients have done so far for inspiration. So this first example is from a chat service called Girl Effect that used Instagram ads with clicks to WhatsApp. This means that anyone who clicked on this ad would be taken automatically to the WhatsApp line. And the second example on the right is a sticker used by an organization called Ladysmith to promote their Cosas de Mujeres chat service in community centers. And so you can see that the sticker includes information about the WhatsApp number that they're trying to direct users to. Next slide, please. Another good practice involves using alternative channels like TV and radio to share the details of the WhatsApp service. So these are examples of campaigns that Sesame Workshop ran, for example. Next slide. And here you can see the click to WhatsApp journey as an example. So you click on an ad on Instagram and it will take you automatically to the WhatsApp service, and it will pop up on your phone or in your web browser depending on where you're logged in. Next slide. Then traditional print media such as posters and billboards are also a great place to advertise. Here's an example that encouraged citizen reporting on WhatsApp by using a trigger word to start the conversation with the WhatsApp service. I think Lisa mentioned it. So Shamba, Shake Up advertised these posters to get information from local farmers on locations where locusts were seen. And then this was used to generate location-based reports that were shared with the wider community. Next slide. And you can also consider making a short video of the service you want to promote. Here is an example from the Meta Blueprint team. Oh, I think we're not getting the sound, but it's okay. It's basically a tool for small businesses to learn how to use the Meta social platforms to engage with their users. Next slide. And this is another great video launched by the Princess Trust for the program Vibe Check. So as you can see, most of these promotional materials have a clear call to action. They have details of the WhatsApp line or the WhatsApp number, or a simple click so that the users are automatically directed to the service, and it's a very swift change and transition. So I think we can move on to the next slide, Manish. Thanks. So then another best practice to consider when you're designing your service is to iterate, and iterate again. It's important to test your service before launching it with a small group of users or with your internal team. So it's important as well to understand how people are interacting with your service and iterate it based on the mistakes that the initial users make. Make sure to update your content as well so that you ensure that the most valued information requested by your users is easily accessible. And lastly, you should always review your content periodically to make sure that it's easy to digest, it encourages user engagement, and it remains relevant to your users. Next slide. And then finally, you should think about how to re-engage with your end users. And you can do this by sending reminders or notifications, for example. You can now do that from the user interface at Turn. And you can also reach out to the users who have previously interacted with the platform to bring them back to the service. And so the only thing you have to consider is that you need to collect their opt-in or their consent before you send them outgoing messages. And then you can also use follow-up timers to nudge the users within a 24-hour window. So I think that's the end of the best practices for designing your service. We were going to go into breakout rooms, but I think because of the lack of time,
actually,
we might.
Carola, sorry, slight change in plan. We are going to go into breakout rooms now. There's going to be 2 breakout rooms that we've set up. One is to chat a little bit more about designing your service. And if you have any questions around content or designing or anything like that, that is the one that you can assign yourself to. Manish will be setting it up for us, so you can just see an option that will come to your screen and you can choose which one you want to go to. And the second breakout room is onboarding. So that the team will discuss, like, how do you get started? What do you require to get started on the WhatsApp Business API? So feel free to choose the breakout room that you're looking for. We'll just spend a few minutes, 2 to 3 minutes in those rooms, and you get the chance to speak to the rest of the team there with your questions, a slightly smaller environment, and then we'll meet back to wrap up the session on the half an hour.
Thanks, Lisa. I've just created the breakout rooms, so I'm just going to open the rooms out for everyone to choose which one they want to go to. Starting here.
Thank you very much, and welcome back from the breakout rooms. I hope their sessions were interactive and productive. I mean, I know we had an interactive and productive session on our end. So for being here with us today, we're excited to be offering you a 3-month free license on Turn. This license will give you access to the following: 1, a WhatsApp number; 2, unlimited users on your WhatsApp line. We also will offer you unlimited training, which events of which we'll share after this call. We also have WhatsApp and email support as well. And we will also host your number on the Turn cloud. So for those who haven't done so, please click on the link that's in the chat, and we will also share this link as well after this call. So for those who didn't join the onboarding breakout room, here's a quick recap of the 4 basic steps that you need to sign up onto the WhatsApp Business platform. 1, select a number for your service. You can select either a local number or a global number. 2, you need to register your organization on the WhatsApp Business platform. 3, you need to request business verification from Meta. And then the last step, you need to choose your Turn.io plan. Next slide, please. So before we chat about how to connect to the community, here's a quick reminder to please fill in a survey. We have the link that we can drop on the chat, please. So this survey will be sent through the chat, and it's just for us to get some feedback on how you found the session and also some quick and helpful tips for us. And lastly, we want to thank you in advance for filling this in. And again, we will share, we'll follow up as a partnerships team as we plan more boot camps this year. Here at Turn, we really believe in the power of community, as it's been a great privilege to work with amazing organizations around the world, inspiring them to use chat to make an impact. These organizations have become a great part of our success and have created and fostered an environment of sharing experiences, best practices, and evidence of what works. We are continuously hosting events and that are aimed at growing our community through the Chat for Impact bootcamps and also our monthly town halls. So we'd like to invite you to the next event happening this month, which will be Town Hall happening on the 15th of June. This will take, these Town Hall will showcase some studies from our clients. We'll do product updates and also share news and much, much more. Lastly, here are different ways you can join and engage with the community. 1, via the Chat for Impact forum, where a lot of our clients and potential clients ask questions about how we can solve certain problems through chat. Via our LinkedIn group, where we promote events and general networking. And we also conduct weekly product training for anyone interested in starting to build a chat service on a low-code platform. And finally, you can connect with us via our WhatsApp support line by either scanning the QR code or by sending a simple hi message to the number displayed on the screen. The partnerships team will be more than happy to answer any questions you might have, so please feel free to also reach out to us at impact@turn.io. And with that said, we would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules and also staying a bit longer to attend this bootcamp. We hope you got a chance to learn much more about how chat can impact and change people's lives and also the environment. Have a great day further, afternoon or evening, and goodbye.